So with that, I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is the City Council Minnetrista work session of June 2nd, 2025. And I'm going to start out with introductions. I'm Lisa Whalen, I'm the mayor. And to my left are council members Kathleen Buckin, Peter Vickery, Claudia Lacey will be joining us a little bit later. And then we have Brian Govern. And then on the end, we have staff, Allison Felsby, our city engineer, Gary Peters, Public Works Director, Ellie Paulos, Assistant Administrator, and then to my right, Jasper Krugel, our Administrator, Ryan Grimm, our Finance Director, and then Chief Squires, our Chief of Police. How's that? Public Safety Department is just too long. So, all right. So we have a couple of things on the agenda for the work session. We're going to talk about our camera system, and then discussion of our miscellaneous drainage items, and then also Assistant City Administrator hiring process, since Allie will be leading us. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jasper.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. I'll give a little recap about how we got here today. We were, I believe back in April, we were talking about our camera security system. This is basically the system that we have here at City Hall in the public safety building. Indicated that that system, both the hardware and the software, are end of life, and quality is fairly poor on some of the cameras right now. Some aren't working. So what we've done is we looked at doing a replacement, kind of I don't know if you call it a maintenance project, but it's really a replacement project to replace the camera system that we have here on our facilities. Also, we were looking at expanding it to some of our public works facilities, water facilities, such as our well houses and our water towers and things like that. So really the core group, I'm kind of the facilitator, and really Craig and Gary are the ones that are looking at the project, meeting with the vendors. So they've met with a series of vendors. Today we have one present. Jake, is it Froyland? Great, from Security 101. And then we have a video from USA Security. They're kind of our current vendor for our system. So if you remember Chris from the April meeting, he has a little video. He was not able to attend today. His son is graduating high school from somewhere. I'm not sure what high school it is, but and then we'll have somebody from that camera vendor group to answer any questions, if there are any questions. So we have a little bit of time, and I'll let you know, there were two other vendors that Gary and Craig put a lot of time in meeting with them. One of them, frankly, just said that they don't have the staff or ability to provide us the service. So they met, I think, 3 times, so quite a bit of time for staff to meet with them, for them to withdraw at kind of the last minute. And then the other one sent an email today saying that they weren't ready to present, but they are willing to submit a quote or a bid once we get to that point, or whatever the process brings forward. So today we just have one new vendor that you haven't heard from yet, from Security 101. Came from a recommendation from a fellow city administrator in Dayton. So Dayton uses them for their security system. So that's where we're at. Hopefully we can get, the vendors, I told them kind of 15 minutes, and then they'll have a short presentation, and then there's questions from the group, just kind of managing expectations. This is the first that staff has really seen a lot of these presentations, and, we're curious to see the Q&A. From there, likely, I think what you'll see is, with feedback from city council at a future city council meeting, some direction as far as which way we're going to go. And the bidding threshold is 175,000. So anything above that, we'd have to bid. Anything below that, we'd get quotes for, unless directed otherwise by city council. So with that, I don't know if there's any questions as far as the process goes from city council. If there isn't, then we'll let Jake come up and give a little presentation and start it off. Okay.
So welcome, Jake.
Thanks, Jasper. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm not used to talking to the microphone. Well, all right, so I'm Jake Foyle, Security 101. Like Jasper said, I was referred in by another city administrator that we've done work for a long time. I was actually at their resident of the city, Dayton, as well, and I was at their trash removal day, dumping some things off, and Zach happened to recognize me, just ran up to me real quick and said, hey, one of my good friends has an opportunity that I referred you to. He's going to be contacting you. And first thing I did Monday morning after that was contact Jasper. But at any rate, what I'll do today is just give you a really brief background about myself, Security 101, and then a quick recap of my meeting with the chief, and then our recommended solution, and then any time or any questions that you have, fire away. So the thing that makes me unique, or Security 101 unique compared to maybe other vendors that you'll meet with, or quite frankly, we're in the industry, is that we're locally owned and operated. So I'm the owner operator of Security 101. We're based out of Maple Grove. We started out as a franchise organization about 20 plus years ago. Over the course of time, we've got 50 plus offices nationwide. The unique benefit of this model is that we have the buying power with all the major manufacturers. And then with that, we get the national level tech support, and we get national level prices. We're at the highest tier for all manufacturers that we sell and service. So the benefit of that model for you is that you can work with a local provider. There's no bureaucracy. If you call in, you talk to me or my team, and we jump on any service request that you may have. And then the other benefit is you get to work with a local company. So if I was just standing up here at Jake Broyland's security company, the product offerings that I would have, if I wanted to sell them, they wouldn't. So we hire highly specialized technicians, and with that model, we have system designers, project managers, all at our fingertips. So we can operate as a big company without the bureaucracy, and then respond with urgency, meeting with our customers' needs. So we've grown quite a bit in this market. We service a lot of cities. We service a lot of school districts. My biggest customer is the Osceola School District. Last year we did a camera refresh there, 800 plus cameras. We worked with Polaris. So everything from local government to education to manufacturing to software and financial type companies. That's who we work with. So our core competencies is access control, video surveillance, intrusion detection, visitor management, integrated systems, all those systems integrated together. And then we also have a lot of cloud-based options. So here, like I said, we've grown over 50 offices nationwide, started out in West Palm Beach. But the other nice thing is having a network of offices. If there's ever a technical issue or anything that I need, I've got 40 other plus owners at our fingertips. So if there's a challenge that someone's having, we will send out an email to the owners group. So there's strength in the numbers and having a national network, especially with our vendor partners, giving that pricing and that technical support. And then you can see that's our line card. So that's all the different systems that we represent. So we're factory certified in everything that's on that list. I know it's all you can't see, but some of the big names that you'll see on there is like Cornell, Genetech, Access, Revo, Eagle Eye, to name a few. So when I met with the chief, these were kind of some of the things that he discussed with me. Basically, where you're at right now is at end of life hardware. Camera was down. It was recommended potentially to replace the systems, and that you wanted to go move more to the cloud-based. The server's on the brink. So the nice thing about moving to the cloud, like the server issue or server failing, you don't have to maintain. I don't know if there's any IT folks there, but you don't have to maintain a server anymore. That goes away. It's managing the calls. Firmware updates are automatically taken care of. Software updates are automatic. You don't have to have a dedicated server on site to make any changes, so it's nice. The other nice thing is you're going to move from an analog coax to Cat6 cabling. So the quote that I've submitted has us running all new Cat6 cable to each camera location. For the access control, we'll use the existing wiring in place and just replace the hardware at the device end and panels at the head end locations. And then the chief mentions some CJIS requirements. So all the alarms and specific doors will be tied into the access control system so that there's alerts if anybody goes into that designated area that's part of it. And then we just discussed some camera placements and some blind spots. And with the solution that we're going to be presenting, we'll have upgraded cameras. We'll have some multi-specialty cameras to take care of blind spots and then just some better placements. So those are the four main things that I took away from my site walk with the chief. So being the fact that this is what we're recommending, and the reason we're recommending it is through my conversation with the chief is that it sounded like you guys decided you want to move to a cloud solution. So with Breville is a cloud-based access control. They're the ones that pioneered. They're first to come out with cloud access control. So they're leading the way with innovation. It's a time-tested, proven solution across a lot of government entities nationwide. The user feedback that we get from all our customers, and the reason we're like partnering with Breville, it's easy to use. And then you can also integrate it to a lot of different things. So you can integrate it into your HR, somewhere HR software platform that you're using. If you're using any sort of identity management within the city, it can integrate it with a lot of different things that you already have in place. And then Breville owns their sister company is Eagle Eye. So I know it's important that when you see the doors, that you want to associate video with it. So Eagle Eye is the company that will integrate with Breville. So you're running this under one pane of glass. And then these would be the Breville readers that would go at the door locations. So I know at the police station, there's several that have keypads. And then I know also that you want to incorporate mobile phone credentials so that employees and vendors or whoever has access can use their mobile phone as the credential versus using the standard key card. The other reason we like Breville is it's open architecture. So with some of the other cloud systems that are out there, if you went with you're locked in. So for example, if you wanted a certain type of camera, you have to use the camera that comes with that solution. With Breville, it's open architecture, so you can use any camera that you want to with this system. So in 2-3 years, you don't have to rip and replace a camera. The other nice thing is it's true cloud storage, meaning there's no SD card on the camera with a delay to the cloud. The video goes straight from the camera to the cloud, and you can change if you want to have 30 days of storage. You can change it if you want to have 60 days of storage at any time. With some other vendors out there, you'd have to change out the camera if you want to change the number of days when you're doing this. Like I said already before, it integrates with many HR platforms, and then it's cybersecurity is obviously very important. It's an IP connection, so it's important that any camera that you select or any solution that you select, enhanced cybersecurity measures are in place.
Jake, did you say you met with the chief? Have you also been able to meet with our public works superintendent director?
No. So the day that I met with the chief, I believe you had an illness where he couldn't make it. So my goal would be that if after this meeting you guys are interested in the solution, we would take a deeper dive and walk every site. But I came into this a little late and met with chief just in the nick of time to be prepared for this. But I got the scope of work from Jasper and everything has been proposed. So I know in pretty great detail what each building needs. I just haven't actually set them.
Because we have water towers and water treatment plants.
Yep.
They would need to be included in the system. So
I don't, there's no competitors here, so I didn't include my proposal in an open forum, but I did send an official proposal this afternoon to Jasper so that you guys can see the scope of work and everything that we would do. I just put a caveat that, this number will be very close, but, it would do, final walk at every site. So yeah, and then the next step, it might go to at least get to the point where you guys see a demonstration of the solution. The manufacturer engineer would actually do the demonstration online so that whoever's in charge of doing the administration of the access control and how it works, would be able to see demo on. So, and then, like I said, next steps, we would finalize the proposal, hopefully line up sidewalks so I can see the remaining sites and line up those numbers so that they're official. And then I said a couple different times in the proposal that I submitted that it's gonna be very close. But sometimes you just don't know what you're gonna run into if you haven't been on site as far as getting wired at point A to point B without actually seeing the site, but feel pretty confident we'll be very close to the number that I stated, which at 171,000 would be the scope of work to do all the buildings rip and replace, all the cameras rip and replace, all the readers, all the panels for access control, and meet the requirements that the chief and I have discussed. And if there's any other, I guess, requirements that would be something that work out in the process. Well,
And then, we're talking about a demo video, but do you also offer like training, just in case? Training.
oh yeah, so we in our proposal to do training time, so we would, once the proposal's wrapped up, we'd spend a day, not even more than a day, training you on the new system and how it works. Yeah. Most definitely.
So with the cameras, do you own the cameras and we're renting them? How does that work with all the equipment? Are we buying it and then you're just doing all the service and maintenance on them? How's that?
Yeah, so you would purchase the equipment and then all the labor is guaranteed for 1 year, and then all the product that we're selling has a 5-year warranty. But then we guarantee the workmanship for a period of 12 months. After 12 months, like let's just say a camera goes bad, it's not necessarily our fault that camera went bad, but the manufacturer will replace it, and you would just pay the hour labor for us to come out and swap up that. As an example.
Following up on that, you then replace this equipment under warranty.
Oh, yeah, so we would own the service of that, absolutely. And then let's just say for whatever reason, hypothetically, you went with security 101 2 years down the road, for whatever reason, you didn't like doing business with us. But like Briegel, for example, would honor that warranty. So if you hired another Briegel dealer, they keep track of the MAC addresses and serial numbers so that they would still be under.
Seems like the technology is changing rapidly, improving. How long do you anticipate
System.
effective?
Yeah, so the cameras that we are proposing have a 5-year warranty. A lot of companies will proactively do like end-of-life refreshes every 5 to 6 years. But I mean, we've seen these cameras last 10 plus years. We're like, you guys are replacing cameras that are 14 plus years old. So I mean, you can extend the life. And then the nice thing about going to a cloud solution, it's kind of like your iPhone in a way where the software is always updating. So you're future proofing your security because you're still going to be able to take advantage of a lot of the enhancements and analytics that come with it because it's cloud based. So you don't necessarily have to replace the hardware to take advantage of some of all the software updates that are coming into play. I mean, things are advancing at a very fast rate. That's again going back to the fact that it's cloud based. You can always take advantage of those updates. That makes sense.
Are those, is the cloud hosted in the United States or overseas?
It is hosted in the United States. I couldn't tell you the exact, you get that question a lot, I don't know the exact location, but it is hosted in the United States.
It's secret.
The cloud services, What's the expected cost of the yearly cloud services or however monthly market go by? Do you have a guesstimate on ongoing?
Yeah, the no, I didn't include that number. I want to say for everything, it's just under 20 grand a year. So that includes hosting your access control server in the cloud. That also includes the retention storage for all the cameras. And I don't want to go into it, but how we bill is we bill once a quarter for it.
I'm sorry, can you tell me how many cameras there are?
That's, well, I think there was 100 some, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, maybe a little less.
Yeah, I'd say a little less, probably around 60, or 550. I'm not sure how many, those ones it was.
Running the Cat 6 cable infrastructure that essentially future-proof us, so if we wanted to upgrade the cameras in the future, would we still be able to use that infrastructure?
Correct, yeah. So a lot of the school projects that we do, they refresh every 5 years. We're using the existing Cat 6 cable that was pulled there, 7, 8 years. And a lot of places still use Cat 5. We just as a standard use Cat 6 for the Cat 5.
Other uses for this security system capacity.
Well, I think, there's a lot of analytics that you can take advantage of with cameras. But I would say for your case, the majority of what you'll be using for is situational awareness and security purposes. If you were running a business and having a store, there's a lot of analytics that can tell you heat mapping, who's coming in. And you can still do that stuff for any deployment that you have. I just don't know if it's relevant. So,
Does Dan have any questions? How many security problems have we had since the beginning of time?
Not a lot, except in booking. It's very important to have video in there. It's booking prisoners, so, I think right now our biggest worry is the servers. So, certainly these plans could be adjusted, but now that's my personal biggest worry, is, if cameras fall off, not sure how we fix that in the short term, if they would do them. But definitely important to have it looking the exterior part of the police department for, as Jake said, situational awareness is coming from. Good question.
That's liability issues too.
So if we go with you, what's the time frame? Do you have this stock to order, like how long does the process take?
So we would take it, right now it's about 1 week to get the equipment. So we would order directly from the manufacturer. And then, our backlog right now is we're booked until mid-July, but we would be able to start mid-July. It take 1 month to complete. But my crew would be on the project until it's done. We don't start a new job until the one has completed.
Any other questions? All right.
Well, I greatly appreciate you guys making time for me. I appreciate the consideration. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for coming. This is great information. Thank you very much. Yeah, very good and easy to understand.
Maddie, we're getting a little feedback here. But we have a video from USA Security, and I believe, let's just see, yeah, Ryan Erasmus is here to answer any questions as well. So, is that queued up, Allie? Can you click the link? We'll see what it does with the audio. I might have to play it on my end here. just because normally,
It's gonna start reverbing here.
hold on one second. All right, so
Want me to go?
kind of, I wonder why it's not coming through,
Hmm?
like, through GoToWebinar. Make sure you're unmuted.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe you guys can hear it through there. Okay.
But it's not great.
Yeah.
Otherwise, can it come into our computers?
It could, but I think, let me see, how am I gonna do this? Let's see. Not signed in there. Give me 1 second. I wonder why it's not coming through the audio.
Well, let's just play it through your computer then. Yeah.
Police department, city administrators, thank you so much for having me. Presenting. This way today. Let's get on these handles. I'm with USA Security. Security providers, Office 16, was we set the up with the system, there's a lot of access to this building you have right now. And even back in 16, we had taken over an integrated campus that were already. That is also mandating campuses pretty good time and have to be emergency. I'd like to share with you today vision forward. Out here. Just a couple
It's like acceptable if you couldn't.
We'll have to figure something else out.
I think it's a really good, I'm not sure, but I think if you do it,
Yeah.
it would be.
I wonder why it's not working through the system on that computer.
Your system is.
No, well, because it should be through here, through that. It should be like remotely.
Eric, can send you.
Yes.
Is there anything you cover with this?
There isn't much. So I mean, we can send that out. It's pretty much, so the solution was the Volcata solution. I just want to make it clear, like that was like a 1-to-1 replacement of what we have, because that's what we're doing. USA Security also has the ability to do other stuff. I think they indicated that too. So it was just, that was what Craig initially had talked to them about, is replacing our system. So there are solutions. I think he indicated that there were, solutions that were maybe more affordable, but they were recommending this just for various reasons. So yeah.
What's the difference between the system and the Volcata system?
And we're dealing with both. For Verkada, you're locked in for the life of all the ones use that. Just before you have to use Verkada hardware. So you're very limited on any sort of integration. You're very limited on flexibility. If you just decide that you have to decide up front what cameras you want to have specific storage for. And once those cameras are installed, if you want to change the storage from 30 days to 60 days, you have to rip out the camera and install the camera.
So that's its limitations. I don't recommend Mercado for bigger deployments like this because their needs change. I recommend Mercado if it's under certain amount of cameras.
We have the USA Security rep. I think he's
Yeah, can you hear me?
available to talk and answer questions as well. So Ryan, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Let's
Hello?
see.
Can you hear me?
She's raising his hand.
Can you hear me now? How about now? Can you hear me now?
It appears he's unmuted.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Ann can hear him.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Maybe it would have been good if at least somebody could have been here in person.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not sure what the deal is with the audio, but it doesn't appear the
you hear
right.
Hello?
I think it's working like this, so let's get back in here.
Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Can you guys hear me? Hello?
Now we have video now.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, right.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
I'm not sure we're not getting the right audio output ability on this computer now. So when I moved it, probably.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can't hear you, Ryan.
Okay.
Trying to think. Try this
You
one more.
might have to use a sign language.
Yeah.
All right.
I apologize for this. For some reason, it's not. Of course, it's not working when we need it to.
I think what we'll do is, I'll tell you what we're gonna do. Hang in there, Brian, and then maybe we'll go to our next agenda item. And if we can get this working, then we can go back to this again. Okay.
Yeah. And I think, so the idea is like, we're not gonna necessarily pick a vendor tonight. It's just like, what's the solution, you know? And really, to me, I'm relying on basically Craig to to figure out what works best for them, because they're the ones that use it. I don't think anybody here uses the camera system other than the police right now. And it's kind of an insurance kind of policy to have. So we want to make sure it works, unlike this audio.
Yeah.
So
To schedule like a test so we can see the product with Security 101 since we have the Mercado system now. I'm assuming the upgrade to it is fairly similar. So the next best step to compare for cheap Mercado versus the Revo system, we for them to test it.
yeah, I would say city council can be involved at whatever level they want. I think at some point, I think it'll come down to, you know, what the price point is versus what works for the group, for Craig's group. So if you guys want to be involved with that, I'm sure that there's plenty of opportunity to kind of demo the interface and things like that, if we'd like.
We're not gonna be using it, the council isn't gonna be using it, so I think it's gonna be more important if Gary and Craig know how it operates, know how it works for their needs and what works best, because that,
Yeah,
we wouldn't know.
so,
Logically, I think next best step would be for Gary and Craig to sit down and test it.
to look at the Security 101, what was this, Brevo system. And then if that's the system that I think they like, then I think we'd come to like the June 16th meeting and say, hey, we recommend moving forward with getting quotes for this. Because I think if it's less than 175, if you're all right with that, then we just get quotes. If it somehow creeps above 175, that would trigger a us to bid it. So if that would be the case, if that's the direction from the group, have Gary and Craig work directly with Jay to demo it and see if it's a good solution. And if that's the case, then we'd probably take kind of your quote and we'd develop a quote package and see if there's any other vendors out there that would provide a quote, if that's what you'd want to look at. Otherwise, we'd come back with a different recommendation, probably at the 16th, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you can come to the 16th area if they consider to give us their opinions on it.
You know how the other one works.
Yeah.
You know how that went.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of council, I'd have to look at the calendar because I think the Deer Golf Tournament, we're gonna all be there for that. That's the 16th.
That's right. Yeah. So, which is fine. I think.
But you wouldn't have to. I mean, if you talk to Gary and you talk to Jasper beforehand, then they can come back with a recommendation. Yeah. Okay, you'll be excused on this.
So I'd like to know about the updates on the existing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, which we have, for the Verkada update, I think that, so there's a big cost difference, right? And I think that's something we should really consider. Yeah, so, we'll look at that and we'll have them look at both of them and bring back a recommendation on the 16th. If that's all right. And then, so Craig doesn't have to be there. We'll bring back the recommendation. And if you guys are okay with that recommendation, then probably the middle meeting or July 14th, we'd come back with a quote package, or if you direct us to get quotes by then, we'd get quotes by then, I'm sure. So maybe if it's a quote package versus bid, we could possibly have something for you guys to consider on the 14th of July.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. Okay. Thank you. Sorry to. So next we have drainage items and discussion.
And Madam Mayor, members of the council, we talked about this a while back. Apologize for not getting back to this with my medical issues being on a lot. Finally getting back around to getting a lot of stuff done here. So we get some areas we just want to get some council direction on what they want to proceed with, what they don't want to. The first being Minneapolis Avenue. There's two areas on Minneapolis Avenue. I apologize, we forgot the second one, but it's a fire lane. The first one, there's at the very end of Minneapolis Avenue, there's a storage pond on the north side of the hammerhead there, and that drains through pipe system down through the property at 1060 Bayside Lane, and then daylights all up to the lake. And that is starting to erode down there, looking at installing some riprap through there to slow that water down, help maintain that shoreline through there. The other one is the fire lane area that is located on Minneapolis Avenue. That is, it's between the addresses of 5103 and 5107. It was a dedicated fire lane back there. Right before I got here, this whole thing was redone.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, it was redone through a project, I believe, with Hennepin County maybe. But it's starting to get.
It was a joint venture with.
It was,
Yeah.
yeah, it was right before I got here. So the front entrance or the inlets have been all redone up here with the project. It's the outfall that the watershed made us aware of, and the residents at 5103 also made us aware of. So we're looking at a project through here to get that outfall squared away and prevent more erosion coming through here. So for these, probably looking, the Bayside lane drainage is not as bad. The one that is really bad though is the one that is in the fire lane, probably looking $50,000 to $75,000 to get that squared away, because there's a lot of tree removal that we have to do to get in there to get some equipment and start to get overgrowth in there. So, and that's just, and that's if we hire it out, if our in-house crew would go, it'd be cheaper, of course, depending on what, entails through there. So, just looking at whether or not, what we want to pursue on these and stuff. So those are the first two to consider there. And I'd say probably for both, that 50 to 75 range would probably get us through there if it's contracted out. The 1061 is a little bit more complex because it's on actually private property and stuff, so.
So for the one on Minneapolis Avenue, the fire lane and one going down, that's a steep incline, right? That's a steep.
So, yeah, they both are pretty steep there at the very end. It's fairly flat to the beginning, but it does steepen all towards the lake.
So to both of those is roughly 75.
Yeah, I would say 50 to 75 probably.
The fire lane, one is more open channel full, whereas the western one off the side is more petted. So
Right.
that one's just, at the outlet, the east side fire lane, it's more through the channel, with the last 100 feet or so. So, on both these, is this on city property or is this on private property?
The one is through private property and easement that daylight's through, and then the other one is city property through the drainage, through the fire lane. That is ours.
So, and the water's just coming off the road and going down there, or?
The water for Minneapolis Avenue takes all the water through Minneapolis. A lot of the area of Minneapolis Avenue was going through there through the fire lane.
Why was that when we redid Minneapolis Avenue?
Because it wasn't a problem.
It wasn't as bad as it was then. I mean, we did all the area off front on the inflow side of it, but the outlet was not that bad. But we picked up, now that the drainage of the curb and stuff has picked up through there, it's really increased the amount of water that's coming through there. It used to come through basically it would run through the yards or it would come through ditch systems to slow it down. But now we're getting a lot more water flow through there because of the curb and stuff coming through there. So we're gonna need some check dams in there at the very end, because there are check dams as you come through here, but at the very end there's not. So it's picking up speed and starting to wash it out. So the check dams will help slow it down. You can sit on, you get a rip wrap in there, don't slow that water down, catch it and just kind of slow that little flow down. So.
Could we approach the watershed district and the county about, since they
Probably not the county, but we could talk to the watershed, as they're the ones that really kind of pointed it out to us earlier this year. So we can touch base and see what they, if they would want to work with us on that.
I think they were the cost share partner, they were the partner that in this 2011.
Sorry, they might be willing to.
So they might be willing to, partner again, to repair this, so we can definitely pursue that. That's not an issue, so.
And then the Bayside one, that's on private property.
The pipe is on it through an easement through there on, right between there, so it's on the drainage easement. That's picking up all the drainage coming from Bayside Lane. So it comes through, it goes into the holding pond there on that side, and this is just an overflow. But when we are getting these massive rains, it's filling up so fast. I thought the pond was redone with the Minneapolis project to increase storage, but with the massive amount of rain that we get on these little storms that come through, it is picking up, and since it is tight, it's picking up a lot of speed. It does have a drop system in there to help slow it down through the piping system. But at the very end, there's just that slight area through there that's starting to wash out that we really need to address. This one's not a real large area, I would say. I'm just kind of looking at the measurements. You're maybe talking maybe 50 feet, 60 feet there. The other one's probably, a good, probably 150 feet that we'd have to maintain through there, so.
Why? Bayside, that area has an HOA, don't they?
What's that?
Bayside, doesn't that area have an HOA?
I
Well,
don't believe it does.
it's not a functioning one anymore.
Yeah.
Well,
And in the problem is, when that was developed back in the 90s, they weren't, how do you say, they were told that this was their pond and they had to maintain it. Whereas now, when we do developments, we say, your stormwater ponds are yours and you have to maintain them.
right.
But that wasn't the case back in the 90s. So
It's
this is
picking up all
ours.
the stormwater that's coming off of the Bayside Road itself. So I mean, it's picking up everything coming from, about 2/3 of the development comes all the way through that way.
But if we fix this on private property, won't we just have to fix everyone who has water rushing off the roads onto their private property?
Well, we may have to.
Well, it's coming from city, from the actual street
Right.
load, and we got to look at doing that, but a lot of these, we don't have as many issues as you think coming through with these. It's very different, it's older ones that we have. The new ones all are maintained through holding ponds and better catch system before it gets to the outfalls and stuff. This one, it's just at the very end, it just drops off so steep there that it's, really getting quite that bad. So, but we do have this all over where we have drainage systems from the streets that go to not only private ponds through, through easements, into people's backyards. So, and we're gonna be at that challenge to start thinking about doing these stormwater cleanup areas to get rid of the deltas that are built up from accumulating sand and debris that's coming through the leaves, the trees that are growing in it. We've already done some of them, ready just to remove some of the trees out of it. But we're gonna see more and more of this as we go. So I guess the determination is gonna be, if it is HOA stuff, but it's city drainage coming there, who's responsible for it? So, personally, I feel it is coming off all the city streets that we're, maintaining the catch basin system there coming through. So I do feel that we kind of do have a little bit of responsibility as far as the outfall goes to the pond system itself to maintain that area around there. The entire pond itself, probably not if it's at the HOA. That would be on them to maintain any of the growth coming in, but that delta area that's starting to build up in front of these, the tree growth and stuff, that is something that we should probably take care of as a city, just because if you start to back the system up, all of a sudden now you're not getting drainage. So now your catch basin will be full, you're gonna have water sitting in the street, it's gonna cause troubles as you keep going. So similar to if you have the sanitary sewer backup, it starts going into homes, so it'll start going into the streets and flooding different areas. So that's my opinion. You guys are the bosses. If you guys don't want us to touch them, that's up to you guys. 100%. So we'll do what you guys want to do.
Our drainage, so it's drainage from a public roadway. That's why I think we need to.
Well, would it not be an issue if the pond had been kept underneath? Those are some of the ones who really got small stores and everything.
That we were, I don't recall the funds for on that one. I think it just has more to do with the volume of water there.
Yeah, the pond is too small, is my recollection. The pond was too small originally, and then we did some work on it, didn't we, Gary?
The pond itself had silted in and filled in, and it was enlarged. I think it was only made to the same size that it was. I think we enlarged it.
But I think, wasn't it this pond that it belonged to the city? It's one of those, I think we have like, 10 or 12 or whatever ponds that are unknown as to whose responsibility they are.
This is one, and I'm just looking up here on our.
And this is, we ever assess, it looks like the drainage is all coming off Bayside Lane, that they did have an HOA. I presume that they would be assessing themselves to pay for it. So it would be equitable to assess the homes that are having their street drained into this maintenance.
Well.
So,
I want to know it's a pond.
yeah, so this is kind of an ongoing conversation that we've had about stormwater pond management over the last 3 years, probably before that even. And we're gonna eventually run into some situations where we need to figure out who's gonna maintain the ponds, how it's gonna get paid for. And one of the options is assessment. We have to go through the 429 process and demonstrate that there is a benefit to whoever we assess. So there's that process. We've never done that. We have a stormwater utility. It's going to start raining here pretty soon. So, but a lot of cities have a stormwater utility, and they use that to maintain the pond. I would say that's the majority of them. I don't know, Allison, if you know of others, but if you have a stormwater utility and there's a publicly, or one of our ponds that we own, we're going to maintain it. Where it gets a little sticky is the defunct HOAs that we don't own it. They have no way of paying for it. So that's where we have to kind of figure out. And I think that's where this kind of lies.
Right, and you assess the people that are benefiting from it, because I don't think.
We have to then prove a benefit, and then they might come back and say, well, but public street, and it's the water from the public street that's potentially causing this issue. So that's the issue, but there's, what happened is, back in the day, they would create these stormwater ponds, but then quotes unquote, whether they belong to the HOAs or not, was undetermined. Then, back in the 2000s, what the city started to do is we said, okay, now they created a district, actually. So every time a development comes in, now there's a district, a stormwater or utility district, and it's all set up. So if we want to assess for a stormwater pond maintenance, it's all set up already, and we can do that very easily. Whereas these older developments, it's not like that. So you have to go through the whole process, and you have to prove that there's a benefit, and that might be a little bit difficult to do. I'm just saying. So.
I just want to understand this. So if there's not a benefit, why do we have to do it?
Well,
I mean, but obviously, if they're not compliant, I guess there's no benefit to you, so we don't have to do anything.
Yeah, because I mean, the homeowner's complaining in this case, right? Because it's eroding their channel, or what's like, I guess, who was complaining for this 1040 Bayside?
They made us aware of the residents.
So the residents complaining about it.
So the benefit is we fix it and pay for it, so that's a benefit. So shouldn't we share income or consideration? Over 10 years, we can have them.
yeah. I think the Bayside one is mostly, that's a policy decision. If we say, no, we're determining it's a private matter. It's on the private citizens to fix it. I don't think it's tied to our stormwater pond MS4 permit obligation. So the reason why we are even talking about stormwater ponds is because we have a permit through the state that requires us to maintain them. So, and that, it doesn't matter if they're public or private. We're in charge of all of them in our city.
The question comes into play since we charge everybody a stormwater fee, and then we say, oh, but we're not going to fix it. Why are we charging stormwater fees?
This isn't necessarily stormwater, this could just be the rain filling up the pond. Now, I mean, I realize it's all the same water, but you don't know that the pond is just overflowing and causing this versus if this was a storm sewer system where the pipe was running out and then causing this. The pipe goes into the pond, correct?
No.
All of Bayside, 2/3 of the Bayside main comes down into that.
And then the pond is causing that.
Then it discharges on underneath Minneapolis Avenue, underneath the yard to the lake.
But so then this channel is from the pond overflowing or the pipe under, I guess I'm
Well, it's sort of water, sort of continuous water.
water from the pond up.
Yeah, and from Bayside, lake, so coming off the lake. So
I guess we'd have to ask Sarah legally what is our responsibility, because I do know that you can't put stormwater runoff onto somebody else's. In other words, if you were building a home, you'd have to make, we ran into this on Minneapolis Avenue. If you were building a home, you would have to make sure that all the stormwater runoff stayed on your property, or whatever stays in your property. And you're responsible for that. You can't have it running off another person's property. So we have to find out legally what we are liable for or what we're responsible for. I believe we're responsible for the runoff on the public road, but maybe we can have Sarah weigh in.
Yeah, because it sounds like the road is running into the pond.
But it's also running into the pipe.
So
the overflow flows then out of that, once that pond reaches a certain level, then it gets the overflow to go to the lake. So, we get the rain we just had, so now that's all running in there. So it gets to that point, then it gets that overflow, and that's what's going through. So, the pond is designed to hold a certain amount of water, but once it reaches that, the maximum capacity, then it starts to flow through the pipe. So it's a double-edged sword, yeah, I mean, and it is taking some of the area water from the surface too, but a lot of it's coming off the Bayside Lane. So off of the, all the drainage is from Bayside Lane is going. So,
Allison, did you?
Well, to Mayor's point, this development,
predates the city's requirements as far as having those stormwater needs. So that's been one challenge, is trying to find documentation, legal documentation with regards to that management. And I think the second component is something that Gary had mentioned, as well as the age that this went in kind of predates some of the current stormwater sizing requirements. And so there's two real competing components when it comes to this pond, as far as, you know, showing that this is to put the onus of payment responsibility on the residents. While it's certainly something that council could pursue, and we would talk to the city attorney about, we don't have anything right now like we do with the newer developments that say definitively, this is your responsibility. And like I said, the other component is I would be willing to bet that this wasn't built to the current standards for stormwater.
No, they changed because of the, any more than 100-year rain events that we have.
And when swamp was put into place, it was built in 1994, was put in, owner just says private. They could not find anybody or any documentation as to who the owner was, whether it was an HOA or whatever. So we have the same conversation going right now with the retaining wall as you come in, that's on the property, as the first property coming in that we're discussing too, that, you know, who's responsible for it. There's nothing on record, it just says retaining wall by others, so Sarah's kind of helping us out with that, trying to get a maintenance agreement with that. I mean, it looks like it's all on our property, so we just want to make sure, and down our eyes, cross our T's, to get everything right. So same with these ponds, so I mean, whatever you guys decide we can do, but like this pond, it really doesn't have a true ownership, you know, and I mean, you know, why they put it in someone's backyard and not an outlot, I mean, that's the real, you know, unfortunate for the residents here at 1040. I mean, he's got it all on his property. I mean, you just say, hey, it's on your property, congratulations, it's not yours. That's, you know, not fair to them either, because they're not the original homeowners, but they're kind of stuck on it.
You know, maybe we can work something out where we do the repairs, as you're suggesting, but then in the future, we can have an agreement that the Bayside residents maintain the pond. Like maybe something like that, because just to walk away from it, I don't think is right, and also to charge everybody, that's gonna get pretty, you know, it's difficult.
What does it take to maintain? What's that look like?
Depends on what maintenance needs to be done. A lot of the areas that we have are deltas that are built up from years and years of just the sand and soot, you know, flowing off the roadway into that. So it depends on the pond itself. A lot of it's vegetation that's growing in on the sides and has, you know, decayed, kind of tipping on each other and keep growing, decaying. So now your water body has shrunk in, so it needs to have all the sides cleared out and that and stuff. So kind of depends on the pond itself and what the determination is, but a lot of it's just going to be removing these sand deltas, you know, making sure the current depth is there, and then opening it back up to the original size. You know, that's going to be, you know, a big determination. We had back in 2014, we had the huge rainfall. We did have a blowout on one on Evans Way that the homeowner association did take care of, you know, on that one. So I mean, it has been done through some HOAs that are ineffective in what it is. So you know, that's going to be the issue as to you get these monsoon rains that don't, you know, that I think 2014 I think it was 7 or 8 inches that came. You know, and we've had blowouts everywhere. I mean, we had so much storm drainage way damage that we were trying to correct this stuff. Thank goodness for FEMA and came in with a lot of money to help us out. But, you know, we're running into these problems that these rainfalls aren't just, you know, 100 year anymore. I mean, we're getting 2-3 inch rainfalls. And, you know, a lot of these older systems weren't designed for that, you know, so that's the issue. So, like I say, your direction, how we want to go with these, we have some that we can discuss too here, but, you know, the one that, you know, this one's, yes, it is a private pond, but the water is coming out public roadway. The other one is, you know, pretty much our city drainage way. It's always been there, and they've always used it for that, so I think we're kind of going to be on foot for that. matter what. So like I say, for these and the upcoming private ones, that's gonna be up to you guys to decide what you do or how you want to pursue, so.
Well, and what's the ongoing maintenance for this channel with the riprap? I mean, do you have to maintain it, do you have to fix it every couple of years, every 5 years, how often?
It kind of depends on how much silt gets built up in them, but I would say you can probably get by for 10 to 15 years, on them. I mean, depending on, like I say, how much is actually going through there. With this system, you're not getting, the way this one works on the bayside, the pond itself is raising elevation, so you're not just directly taking, right from the road to, the lake itself. You're not getting the sand and the soot and debris, so it does have a chance. The pond's doing what it's supposed to do. It's catching all that, it's letting it build up and then just more water exiting. But the velocity that's coming through there, the pipe, it does pick up speed. It does have 2 drops in it to help slow it down a little bit, but it's still causing at the very end a little bit of wash out there. So the pond is doing what it's doing. It's clean water. For Minneapolis Avenue, everything's filtering through all the way through down through a channel. So most of it's good. It's the last few, 100, 150 feet that really needs attention because it's, again, picking up speed through there, coming through there. I think originally, I think it was more, we've added more check dams in the beginning and stuff with the project and done a little more. I think originally, if I remember right, it was bubbles on twigs and sticks that they had pumped up together, stuck on the sides. It was kind of a new concept back then that the watershed wanted to try. Worked great for establishing the banks. Wasn't so great for working in there. They did the same thing on Kingswood that they just redid. They had, lines of basically, 10 to 15 foot logs or sticks tied together, stayed down to help slow it down. Great concept, and my problem is wood rots, and stuff. So same thing that's happened here over time. So looking back, sure, with the project, yeah, we probably should have gone farther, but at that time it wasn't as bad. So now it's just kind of picked up at the end there. So.
And I think too, when we look at the fire lanes, the check dams that are already in place upstream, I mean, those are now 14 years old and they're holding up well. It's usually more of a maintenance of removal of any vegetation, and that's usually at the top tiers. You might get some a little further down, so you tend to see a little bit longer life.
How would that work out if the homeowner on the bayside property, say they don't like having
Well, I mean, we would definitely discuss with them what the plan is. I mean, there's really no other options, except to do that. We would present that and say, we would need a right of entry to come through there. They did fence out their property, but they knew it was there, so the fence is removable in sections. So that if we ever did need to get through here, they did discuss it with us, they know that is there. So that they were planning for future maintenance, so I don't think it'll be that much of an issue with them where it is, because it's between basically 2 properties, it's in a student drainage way.
I think
That
wholly on the one property though.
Yeah, that's my question. This figure too, is that between 1060 and the 5135? No.
This is the fire lane.
My apologies, I wasn't clear on that. So the one, figure 2 is in the fire. Okay. And then figure 1 shows that other area upstream that shows the pipe pretty much all the way to the lake with the last little bit we.
So I think we should just do both. But it would be nice to be able to get Sarah involved and find out how we could maybe transfer ownership of the pond to the HOA or to the neighborhood. If there's some way of doing that. I know they did have an HOA at one time, but I don't know if it's even still
Yeah, just like you're at, we looked through the files, for the team on it, doesn't appear that there is any active one right now.
Yeah, there's no active one, but they did have one.
We can talk with Sarah and figure out if there's a way that we can solidify something to make that, the owners on
Right.
the side of main residents to have it maintained, so. But right now the swamp score is 91.95, so it's very high.
Pretty good, yeah.
You know, so, I mean, that, it'll be a while before that's gonna need any attention. You know, probably long after my tenure here, hopefully, so. Deal with it, but, eventually somebody will have to deal with it, so it would be nice to have something in place. Not only for this one, but we have these ponds everywhere. There's Maple Forest has one, we have alpha Maple Crest that we maintain. I mean, there's several of these around the older developments that have these. So something, once the plan gets in place for one, maybe it's gonna be the model, and we kind of start moving through and figure out where, you know, who on these private areas that quote unquote the HOAs aren't there, who's gonna maintain it. I do that, so.
Well, that, I guess would be a question for Sarah. If we can create a district that ties in those homes to those ponds, if there isn't a functioning HOA. That was the erosion control, the erosion channel for the fire.
To go through a 429
The water.
Correct, we can work with them, they're the ones that kind of pointed out, we can ask, hey, do you want to partner again and get that, you know, the rest of the area fixed up and see what they're doing, because there's some tree removal that's gonna have to take place. You know, just the, you know, the growth that's come in there, I mean, it was doing really well for such a long time, but I think with, you know, adding the, you know, the curb and getting that water to concentrate there and, you know, and that on WSP, that on myself, that we did not look at the outfall there and think that would be issue, because we figured working, it didn't dawn on, you know, it didn't dawn on else and either that at that time that, you know, we're having an issue down there, so.
Are those your homes there? Are those rebuilds or are those?
They're already, the rebuilds, I don't know when the one on what would be the east side of.
That's been there a while.
Thing, yeah, it's been there for a while. The other one is a newer, the one on the west side of the fire lane, was just done maybe half a dozen years ago, was a tear down and rebuild. Most of these are in there that, you know, they tear down the cabin that was there and put up the big houses. There's 7 going into Canada. I think 2 more that are in process now, so.
All right, so council, I think Gary is kind of looking, do you want to just do these 2 projects? There's some other ones he's looking at, but maybe just to kind of do something tonight.
And we can come and we can get some estimates and bring it back to you too, and so you have a little bit more clear definition on what
That would be
Cost.
we can get some contractors on to look at it, just kind of give us some ballpark figures to get us a little bit closer.
Okay, that'd be great. I think so.
Shouldn't take too long, we could probably bring that back here. By definition, but maybe the first one in July, or there's some time in July. So we could probably bring it back in July. We have plenty of time to get them done, but we could probably get some price, at least some rough, better estimates of what, you know, we're, hopefully they come in a lot more than we're estimating, but, please don't, shoot messenger if you come in on here for some reason. And then moving on, the second one would be on the corner of 110 and 151, on the north end of town. There's a drainage that's basically comes through from underneath the count on the county side, north side of 151 under the road, into, you can see in the photo in figure 4, the outfall there, you know, so it's all silted up, trying to help work with the county to help us out here. So what we're looking at would be kind of a small stemming pond here to hold that water back. And then we don't have a picture of the drainage, but if you look at figure 3, you kind of see how that as you roll it through there really bad. We have a manhole that's right there, and the water, it runs right past that manhole. The manhole's exposed, and it's coming through the cracks and stuff in that manhole where the joints are. We have a lot of I&I coming in there, so we really like to get something done through this area just to maintain that. That and the homeowner at 810, who's new, he just bought the place, you know, their backyard gets flooded now because it's, the drainage way's plugged up, so we'd be looking at doing between the 2 homes, clearing that out, adding in a pipe section here to get it past our manhole, get that short up to prevent the cyanide, because all that clean water we're getting charged for, you know, through that council to, you know, get charged to process it. So, and then, you know, basically the channel going down, we would, you know, kind of say, hey, we'll take care of this, the onus is on them to finish out the rest of it if they want to do anything, with it, so.
Why did Hennepin County say that it's not an issue for them to fix? So, this was a few years ago, I reached out to Hennepin County about this, and so their response was that it's taking area drainage through there. Now, I want to go back to the county because it's connected to the storm sewer system of their roadway. And I think that we should continue to talk to them about, them coming to the table as well. But I did want council to know that we have approached them in the past. But that doesn't mean it. It's their road, we can't fix the road, yeah.
Well, we've had argument with them too that, they. That's adjacent up there.
Right.
So technically the water is not, it is their water too, Governor. We'll keep
no longer can put it into our system. If we want to, unless you allow other people to,
I mean, if you want to, yeah, we could, because
I mean,
it is going into our system, we could tell.
you could say you no longer can do that, unless you allow, what is it, 905 and 925 to tap into that same system. I mean, why should they be allowed to do it, but others can't?
And it is an awful big pipe that got put in for some reason, I mean, a 20-inch PVC pipe.
That's big.
It is big, it's a very big pipe for that, and that, and like I said, I don't know.
Well, it says the pipe is partially flush, is that the 20-inch pipe is partially flush?
No, that's their pipe, so, on the property there, where it's titled there, there's a little pump house basically right there, where that's actually a pump house that they keep heated. Cause this thing runs year round, cause they have springs. Not only, so it comes up in their house, so they pump it from their house and their catch screener from their yard. They pump it up to the catch basin that's in the house and the front yard. What I understand is somewhere along the line from there to there has ruptured, has broken. So I think that, we did put it in, or I should say, the city and it was city staff, what I understand from all documentation I saw put it in, but as far as maintenance goes, I don't know if there's no agreement in there for maintenance wise and stuff, but I would think the onus would fall on them to correct that, but I never thought of Lisa's idea. I mean, yes, we could just continue and say we are gonna block this out, because it's into our system, so.
Right.
And we'd have to have Sarah this, legal and what the standpoint would be, but that would be an option to say, hey, if you don't let that in, we're not gonna allow you to use it.
I like that.
I like that.
Let's see, let's have someone ask Sarah if we can do that.
Okay. All right, check with Sarah, see if we can do that. At least it might force them to cooperate.
All right. I can handle it.
Yeah, right. There might have to be some agreement between the homeowners there, who's gonna, in future years, they might have to share maintenance and operational costs, whatnot, but I think, they need to work together.
Yeah, and we can check, we'll check with Sarah on that, see what her thoughts on that are, and, what we can do, so, that's perfect on that one. The last one then is the Duchesne Lane, where we have two different, outfalls. One, being as you come in, there's a actual creek that's a lot of flowage that's coming through, from the west and along Duchesne Circle that crosses under Duchesne, into, a ravine area there between the homes. And there's another one upstream between, I believe it's the two addresses here at, I can read it here, 6925 and. Yeah, there's a lot of erosion that's happened there, and a lot of this, has occurred because, Duchesne's been there a long time, water has run there a long time, but again, increase of water events, I'm sure a lot of this, was 2014, I'm sure it really hammered this area, because the water does flow through there so heavily. So they're looking at some, ideas of what we, how the city can help them in that. Unfortunately, you're talking, if you actually go down and look at it, you're talking tree clearing, you're talking bottle loads of fill to get this back up. The way it was, one reason this came up was there was a house on North Branch Road that contacted, I believe it was the watershed for protection of, I don't remember what it was it a fern of some sort or something they had, or some of their gardens down there, and they were looking to do a project with, I believe, the watershed at that time, and that's when all this started happening, so they started talking to the neighbors here.
Maybe the watershed wants to fix that.
Joint project, and stuff, so, but the house got sold, I think the watershed just kind of, said, hey, if they're not gonna pursue it, we're not gonna care anymore, but the homeowners are still, on Duchesne, are still looking for some ideas of what the city, how much, participation they would have. We've talked about, installing some, settlement ponds before, right off the road, with a few check dams to help slow it down before it gets into here, in through the ravine area. But, that's not too expensive a fix, but when you get into the ravine, you're probably talking 100 to 150,000 that goes in and get them maintained. So, again, you know, how much appetite you have for the Duchesne stuff. There's another one down below that's the same way. But again, we could put a write-off, you know, as it comes out of the road in the right of way. You could add in a pond area to help slow it down with check dams, you know, and get.
So Gary, I think you might want to, so here's my opinion, you might want to do that because of the erosion of the road. Because if it keeps eroding, you know, the road is right there, and we just redid Duchesne Lane.
The one end is closer, this one that's up on the other end is farther again, but eventually it'll all wash, yes.
Right, right, and so we want to
But we
protect
could
that.
price out a few, you know, and talk to the neighbors up there and see, you know, if they're, you know, intent of putting like, you know, a settlement pond there with a couple check dams to at least help slow it down. We have some temporary kind of rock check dams in there now to help with it, but the pond would help with a few things, you know, it would cool the water, let it drain slowly, hit a couple of check dams on the way out. So it would help. As far as what the ravine would go, you know.
I don't think we can touch that. That's just too much, and it's all on private property.
And there'd be, you know, unfortunately, there, you know, just to get equipment in there, you'd be right now probably like 50, 60 degrees an hour.
And restoration.
Yeah, restoration would be,
Associated.
yeah. So we can definitely talk to them about what we could do on top to help as it's coming on before it gets here. Same with the, you know, with the other one down below, we could, you know, hold the ramp up. So. Okay. Yeah, we could relay that again. We can get some pricing on that and get it to look. So.
All right. Is that everything?
Yes, it looks like that's it. We could talk more if you want.
No, that's fine.
He's making up for lost time.
All right. Next, we're going to talk about the process for city assistant administrator.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of council, as you are likely aware, Ally is leaving us here, I think June 20th. You haven't accepted her resignation letter yet, so feel free to reject that. But, so I just wanted to make sure that the group was okay with the process that we've developed, and I worked with the personnel committee, Peter and Kathleen, to develop the process. So the position has been posted, and we have been receiving applications. The applications are due by June 10th. So we've gotten a few, I don't know how many total, probably 10 or so, something like that. So people are in everybody to market, and we're trying to get as many as we can so we can have a good pool to look at. So if you look at the timeline in the packet, June 2nd, we're here today to talk about this. Applications are due June 10th. We would look to score internally the applications June 11th through the 13th, and then bring in 3 to 5 candidates, maybe 3 to 4, something like that. Depends on where the clear break line is in the scoring. But that first round of interviews would be the 16th through the 20th of June. And that would entail department heads, support staff, and then personnel committee. There'd be kind of 2 panels that we would split between the two, or between the candidates, and they would go back and forth. From there, hopefully we can get it narrowed down to 2 to 3 candidates, and then bring them into city council, have city council interact and interview with them. The second round, that would be the 23rd through the 27th, depending on scheduling. We'd have to notice those meetings. So from there, if you can deliberate and things like that.
Aren't you going to be 23rd, 27th of June? Aren't you going to be up in Duluth?
We will be. So hopefully we can get it done that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I think you're going to be in Duluth too, right? Possibly. Yeah. So the LMC conference is that week. But so we're going to try to get it in there, but we're going to have to notice the meeting. What I would look for after that is direction on a candidate, and you'll obviously get me to weigh in and let you know my thoughts on it too. So, but then from there, hopefully we can get an offer letter, and then possibly on the 14th of July, approve an offer to get this candidate. That might mean 2 weeks or 30 days, depending on the notice period for the candidate to get them in here, potentially beginning to mid-August. That's best case scenario. It's kind of expedited. There might be scheduling issues. There might be some other things. So that's it. Well, yeah, I mean, it could be. So we have everything handled internally as far as operations go. So we'll be able to maintain between now and then. So I just wanted to make sure the group is okay with the process that's outlined, kind of make sure that you all know that you're going to be engaged in the process, and then also, the department heads and then the support staff. So our admin assistants of Darcy and Renee and Angie and Ann, they'll all be involved in the process because they work really closely with that position.
So the question is, basically, the first round would be the personnel committee, which consists of Kathleen and Peter and then staff, and then they'll whittle it down. They'll maybe 3 or maybe 4, 2 to 4 candidates that they feel are highly qualified, and then it'll come back to the council, and then we'll figure out a way to interview them. The teams or whatever, 2 groups, and interview them, and then a final decision. Is that, so the 3 of us really won't be involved until the final? So Brian and Claudia, is that, you're okay with that? Okay?
The only question I had is, review and score applications. Would that be further up in the process if that's an objective way to interview?
The applications are due on the 10th, so it starts the next day.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are scored before the interviews are, or before they're even invited.
Yeah. So we'll look and see where the clear kind of cutoff line is for grouping the top candidates, and that'll determine how many we interview the first time around.
And how is it on? Are we in Florida?
Yeah, we're gonna get.
Yeah, I'll be from Yeah.
All right. Okay, I think we're good.
Okay, thank you. More to come.
Yeah. So with that, then we are done with our agenda, and we can take a break if there's a motion to adjourn the work session. So thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Peter. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes 5-0, and we will reconvene for our regular city council meeting at 7 o'clock. Oh.
It was. Yeah.
I'm fine.